All right, we are back with yet another episode, and I am extremely happy to have today's guest. We hopped on a call a couple of days ago after we were connected by our last guest, Ashton Williams, and she told me that there's this amazing girl you should hop on with. She does podcasts as well. She's super cool. She's into all of this stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, like send me her information right now. And here we are with Christina Sloan. I
Yes.
and one thing I have to preface this by saying is that her energy is unmatched. Okay.
I'm over here like, yes, let's go.
So, and that's one thing that I think sets you apart, Christina. Which I'm so grateful for, because it's nothing like having a conversation with somebody that is that energized, and it just makes the conversation that much more exciting in general. So I just really want to start, Christina. I want you to talk a little bit about who you are and where you're from, the whole 9 yards, and then just a little bit about what you're doing now. Because I don't want to introduce you too much, because I feel like what you have to say is powerful coming out of your own mouth. So if you could just give us a general sense of who Christina Sloan is, I think that'll be a great point to start off with.
Thank you so much for having me. First and foremost, I am so excited to be here. I love how you had to preface my energy. I mean, literally right before we hopped on here, I was hopping on my rebounder, my little mini trampoline, getting into peak state, getting ready to go. And I love it. So yes, my name is Christina. A lot of people also know me as CN Sloan as well. And I am the host of a Working Overtime, the podcast for the 9-to-5 worker who wants to take their dream full time. So that's my baby. I love having a podcast. And I also am into the self-development, personal development space as well. That is my other love. So I am the epitome of my podcast. I'm working a 9-to-5. I have a day job, but I am working on my dreams, which is being a leader, if you will, in the personal development space. And I do a lot of work with a community called the Step Up community. And one of my mentors, his name is Brian. He does work for Tony Robbins. And so I'm very, very grateful to have him in my corner. And so I do a lot of work with him and really helping people to just be their absolute best self. And I do that through coaching and helping with trainings and helping with our challenges. And it's been such an absolute freaking journey. And so let me tell you a little bit about that journey. So I really got into the self-development space, I would say about 4 years ago. But when I say that, I mean like I knew what it was, and I was reading some books and watching some YouTube videos, but that was kind of it. I wasn't really focused on my personal development or anything. I just kind of knew what it was. And then I attended Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within seminar. And I'd seen Tony Robbins speak actually once before. I went to this conference with my boyfriend, and it was like Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, and some other people. And it was cool. It wasn't Unleash Power Within, but it was just some seminar. And I thought like, oh, this personal development stuff's pretty cool. And this was back, pre-COVID, back when we were doing events and everything. So it was always kind of there. But then I went to Unleash the Power Within. And I swear to you, that is when the game changed for me. And I was able to break through all of my limiting beliefs. I was just realized all the power that I already had inside of myself. I knew that I just wanted to help people feel the same way. Because I had this podcast before I went to Unleash the Power Within. And that was the goal of the podcast, to make sure that people knew that no matter what, you don't have to do what you should do. Sorry, I have air quotes, everyone. I know it's podcast, but it's like, it's not about what you should do, what your family thinks you should do, what, society tells you that you should do, what you should be. It's all about what you absolutely want, and you can design your life. You can absolutely be in the driver's seat of your life. Live your life by design, not by default. That is my favorite quote. But then once I went to UPW, Unleash Power Within, I realized like, whoa, I can do this on such a massive scale if I put the work in. And that was when things started rolling. And I joined the first little Step Up challenge met Brian, and he became my mentor, and then started doing all of this stuff. And now I'm in a position where I'm helping other people do the same. And it's been such a crazy ride of once you hit that momentum, once you hit that stride, once you start to see the ball rolling, and then it keeps rolling faster and faster, and the opportunities start coming when you're just so focused on your outcome. And my mission is truly to use the power of storytelling, because I'm a writer first and foremost. I've always been a writer. I've been writing stories since I was like 6-7 years old. But to use the power of storytelling to ignite passion and purpose into everyone that I interact with, that is my mission. That's what I wake up and just think, how can I do this today? On a small scale, on a bigger scale, I'm ready to do it. And I want other people to feel the exact way that I felt once I realized that it was all inside of me and I could do whatever I wanted to do if I just put my mind to it. So that's in a nutshell my story.
Oh, that's awesome. So was there like a certain point, did you have an epiphany, an enlightening, where it was like, now I know everything that is inside of me. Now I know what I'm truly capable of. Or what for you, was it more of a process? Was it more of, step, okay, I'm at this juncture in my life and now I'm learning this about myself. Now I'm at this point in my life and now I'm learning this about myself. Or like I said, was it you attended UPW and through the guidance of Tony Robbins and the community that is at Unleash the Power Within, was it just that I think it was 4 days you told me, right? 4-day
Yep,
event?
4 days.
So
Yeah, so that's
how did you recognize that you had all this potential in you that you weren't using, and that you knew that was there, you just had to bring it out?
I love that question. So I think it's always been a process, and I knew that it didn't really matter what society said. I knew that I could do whatever I wanted to do, but yet there were still things holding me back that I was letting hold me back from, childhood and past whatevers. And so there were just those things that still were in my mind, because mindset is just everything. Mindset is what keeps you from doing anything. It's all just inside of you already. So there was just certain things that were still ingrained in my brain that I knew that I had to break through, because I had all this, I knew I had the potential, but why the fuck wasn't I using it? So it's then when I attended UPW and you actually identify those things and confront those things, and then you write them on a board and you karate chop through that board, that's the moment that everything changed. That really is the moment. It was like, I knew I was on a path. I knew I was kind of doing good things. And hey, I started a podcast. I wanted to help people. I knew that. But what was holding me back? It was just all those limiting beliefs I still held on to. For instance, I always thought I'm too nice to be taken seriously. That was a big one for me. I always just had this thought of, I'm just too nice of a person. No one's ever going to take me seriously. No one's ever going to see me as that authoritative figure to listen to. But then at UPW, that's when I realized, what the hell? That's actually one of my biggest strengths, that I am so nice and whatever. And so I was able to just break through that limiting belief and turn it into an empowering one. And that's how things start to really change. Once you let those things that once defined you in the past, you just let them go, or you turn them around into something that's actually positive. Then it's like, oh my gosh, everything changed. So breaking the board is the exact moment when everything changed. And I realized that nothing is going to hold me back anymore. So yeah.
Right. Now, I love that. It's such a beautiful metaphor, breaking the board. You know what I'm saying? Just breaking that limiting belief that you have in your head. But I think a lot of people don't even know what their limiting beliefs are. They just know that they're just not achieving what they want in life, but they don't know why. Now, what would you say for somebody that, number one, they're at a place in their life where they are living life by default and not design? There's another quote that most people tiptoe through life hoping to arrive at death safely, which is another good one, which represents, I think, a lot of the conformity that we see in society, and people just waking up every day, living the same day over and over again. Have you ever read The 5 a.m. Club by any chance by Robin
I have
Sharma?
not. I've not, but I'm a reader,
Oh,
so as soon as
well, terrific,
said it, it's going to be added.
terrific book with tons of great quotes in it. But one of the best quotes that he has is, most people die at 30, but are not buried until they're 80.
Mm,
Just because they're existing for the rest of that time period and not truly living their life. Now, so my
mm,
question to you is, and I would say a lot of people are living life just skating through day by day, hoping to arrive at death safely. So, but the thing is that some people might be intimidated by the area of self-development, of personal growth,
mm,
because from the outside looking in, it looks very intimidating. You have all these different paths that you can take. You can do like NLP, like we were talking. You
mm.
can go to one of Tony Robbins' events. You can do this. You could do that online course. So, what do you say to somebody that like they don't even know where to begin? They just know that
Mhm.
they want to get better.
I love this. I absolutely love this. So what I would say, once you get to that point where you're like, what am I doing? Everyone, I kind of feel like, has just a moment where they're doing something, they're going through their life, and they think, is this all there is? Is this all that there is? And once you hit that point and you know you're ready to make a change, it's, of course, yes, it's different for everyone. But I think if you have no idea where to start, I personally would recommend starting with like simple things. So, audiobooks, because books are incredible. And you just start hearing things that are empowering and you just start actually hearing them. And if you want to read them too, like I love to read books, but I know a lot of people like audiobooks. So, like, you just start listening to things that just change your mindset. So, that's why I'm saying audiobooks, YouTube videos, because the internet is free, y'all. The internet has all of these resources for free. Go on YouTube and just type in like personal development, self-development, type in all the thought leaders, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, even though it's like he's sales focused, it's still personal development, and all these people who are thought leaders in the space, and just start listening to them. And you don't have to change your whole life overnight unless you feel so called to do so. That's freaking badass. Like, awesome. But just start listening to things, because you start hearing these things and then you start remembering these things, and you hear them really often said by different people, but in different ways. And then you find something that just resonates with you. And that's when the light bulbs start to go off. And then that's when you start to see the changes in your own life, because you see the opportunities of where all this great knowledge that you're starting to soak up, you're seeing how you can apply it in your actual life. Because there's just so much power in listening and really starting to know it and understand it, and then start to actually apply it. So that's where I would start. And then, yeah, heck yeah, sign up for the course, go to the seminar, like do the things. But if you're just like, what can I do right now? Start listening to different thought
Yeah,
leaders,
I
because
100% agree.
you'll be
That's actually
amazed.
like how I got started for the most part. In high school, I would just watch all these motivational videos and all these positive
Yeah, dude.
videos, and I would tell people this, like you said, good place to start is just by listening to this, because if you continue to listen to it, you start to develop some new thought patterns, and some new stuff continues to get ingrained in your head. It's like magic. You just
Mm-hmm.
start listening to it. Listen to one video a day, and then maybe you'll start to remember a quote, and then maybe you'll start to remember a certain topic, like the power of perseverance, or something of the sort. But it starts to form new patterns in your mind, which for me is really, really cool, really, really good to see. And then once you understand, and you start to not only understand the topic, but you see the person that's talking it, and then you see the results they're achieving, and that they're achieving that because of a certain way that they act. And that goes into the whole modeling concept, of which this person is somewhere or someone that I would like to be like. So
Yes.
I'm gonna model certain aspects of what he does, of course individualize it to who I am as a person, but still take a thing or two from this person that I listen to, take a thing or two to that person. And I think that's the goal of what we do as podcasters too, is to present people with different voices And my goal, at least, is for someone to pick up a thing or two each episode that, hey, maybe let me try this out in my life, because, maybe it'll work. Maybe it will click. Maybe it won't, but you'll never know unless you just give it a try. So I think that's such a powerful thing that you're talking about, is actually watching watching those videos, listening to those tapes, whatever. It's so simple too.
It's so simple, right? It's like,
so simple.
I totally believe in the quote. It's a really good quote. Complexity is the enemy of execution. And when things look way too complicated, it's like, well, it's a no-go for me. That looks like so much and blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling y'all, like how you said, one video a day. Start with Jim Rohn. He's a great one. He's a great
Oh
one
yeah.
to start. Like just start one video a day and just start there. Make it simple for you. And then, like you said, it just becomes a new thought pattern. That's so powerful, because our thoughts have so much power over the direction of our lives.
Yeah, and I was just speaking of that thoughts have such a powerful influence on us. I think you told me last time we spoke that the movie The Secret was really bad, because it's and I have to 100% agree, because I watched that last night, and did you watch the one that was made in 2020?
Wait. No, I watched like the OG one.
So they just came out with a new one.
And
what? So how did I mean, it's like an hour and a half. I do not know if I recommend it. So one of the ways in which they recommended that the law of attraction works is that this guy, I think his name was Bray, Bray, and he was this guy who was like a super, like, he understood the law of attraction, used it, and was super powerful and positive and all they did. And then he meets this woman who is the complete opposite, like expects nothing but bad things, blah, blah, blah. So she, of course, it's a movie, how movies go. She ends up hitting his car. She hits his car. Then she invites him. Oh, no. He says, oh, I'll come and fix your bumper. Cause he had a big pickup truck. She had like a minivan. Her minivan got messed up. So he goes back to her house. And now it just so happens that while he was in town, he was in New Orleans. That's where she lives. But he was there because he wanted to deliver a package to a woman whose husband he worked with, but he died in a plane crash. Just so happens the woman who hit his car is that woman that he's looking for. So he goes by her house and he's like, oh man, this is the woman. But anyways, so there's a point in which the kids, now they don't have a lot of money, the family. Now the guy Bray, like I said, super law of attraction guy. The kids are like, Mom, I really want pizza. I really want pizza. I really want pizza. Now on the outside, in terms of like big picture, there was a hurricane coming. So it was downpouring rain, like really, really badly. So the mom is like, we can't really get pizza. We don't have money for pizza. So then the guy Bray is like, just think about it. You will get pizza. Just think about it. You will get pizza. And then all of a sudden there's a ring at the doorbell that the mom's boyfriend had delivered pizza.
Stop it. I'm sorry. What is that?
So that's it. The girl she just
think about pizza. I'm gonna think about pizza right now.
I hope that works for me.
I'm gonna think about it, and I want the doorbell to ring. I don't have a doorbell. I want the door to knock.
I think that exemplifies a good point about the law of attraction. Is that I think some people overcomplicate it, but then I also think that some people oversimplify it, because it's not just I think I'm gonna do good, and then I'm gonna do good. It's not that simple. Yes, it has a lot to do about thoughts, but I'm curious as to what does it mean to you when you hear the law of attraction, because this is a hot topic.
This is a hot topic. We're gonna touch on a few things. So that's so funny. I'm so glad you shared that story, and I'm gonna go watch this video because I need to. When I think of the law of attraction, so okay, let's start with The Secret. Since you made that big claim, you're like, yeah, hated it. So I think the Secret, the movie The Secret, the OG one at least, it misses a very key critical part to it, which is, yes, you want to get crystal clear on your outcome. If you want pizza, yes, you need to think about wanting pizza, and you need to know with certainty that you are going to get pizza. But what you are missing from that is the taking action part. Because what happens is when you hyper focus on your outcome, you're crystal clear, you want it, and you visualize it as if it's already happened. What happens is now your brain, okay, I'm going to try to like really simplify this because I could get real deep. Your brain is starting to look for opportunities to make you right. Your brain is going to look for those opportunities to make it happen. And now your brain is hyper focused on like, okay, like you like, I'm going to get pizza. I'm going to get pizza. So your brain's like, all right, how do we make this happen? Because your brain does not want to make you a liar. Your brain is always working to make sure that you are right. Your unconscious mind rather is working to make sure that you are correct. And it does not want to prove you wrong. It wants to make sure you're not a liar. So now your brain is working in hyperdrive and it's thinking, how do I get pizza? How do I do it? How are we going to make this happen? Because, you know, Christina said she wanted it, so we need to make it. So now your brain starts to present the opportunities to make it happen, whether it be picking up the phone and calling for a pizza, whether it be you realize that you have the ingredients in your cupboard to make a freaking bomb homemade pizza, whether it be you remember that you had some leftover pizza from the night before, you know, and now it's on you to take the action when you see these different opportunities start to present themselves into your life, because nothing's going to happen if you don't take action. Nothing will happen if you just think about it. You have to actually do something about it. But thinking about it makes it so that your mind will present those opportunities to actually make it happen. But it's up to you to recognize those opportunities and to take the action to actually make it happen. So that's what I feel like the movie The Secret kind of misses out on. And I totally understand what you were saying earlier too, the whole like, oh, you just kind of coast through life. And I used to have the idea too. I was like, as long as I'm a good person, as long as I'm just nice and I'm a good person, good things will happen to me, you know, like I'll be fine. And there's some power to that, of course. You know, you want to be a good person. But in order for life to really work for me, I need to work on my life as well. I need to take the action to make it happen. So how I'm saying you're focused, you're crystal clear on your outcome. The reason why, you know, homegirl from this video, why bad things kept happening to her is because she kept thinking bad things are going to happen to me. And what did I say? The brain does not want to make you a liar. The brain is not going to prove you wrong. So if you're so focused on the fact that bad things happen to me and, you know, life is bad for me and what was me and only negative things happen to me, yeah, the brain is going to point out every single bad thing that happens. And then it's just going to keep on reinforcing the bad things that are just going to continue to happen. So that's why it's so important. Your thoughts are so important. You have to focus on the positive. You have to focus on the things that bring you joy. You have to focus on the outcome that you're getting to. And I think the key element too is you think about it as if it's already happened. You put yourself into the future because the brain doesn't know the difference between like something made up in your mind and something real in your mind. So the brain can't tell the difference between right now and the future if you're thinking about it. It knows, it sees that, and it doesn't know that there's a difference between it. It doesn't know what's real and what's in the future. So if you keep experiencing things as if they've already happened, again, the brain's going to say, oh, here's these opportunities to actually make it happen. And that's how it works. That's how the law of attraction really works. So you do attract the things into your life by thinking about them for sure. But I don't think you attract the things. You attract the opportunities to make it happen. Like I want a Maserati. That is my dream car. Why? I don't really know because I'm not a big car person. I personally think that their logo looks like a crown. I am a queen. So that's why I want a Maserati.
That's good.
The dead ass answer. But it's like, I know I'm not just going to keep thinking like, I want a Maserati. And then it's just going to show up in my driveway tomorrow. But I know that I'm so focused on this is the car I want in the future. One day I see myself in it. I feel myself driving it. I see me rolling down the highway in it. And it's going to be so magical. And now guess what? Because I have my eyes closed right now. For those of you guys listening, I have my eyes closed right now because I just visualize this so hard. Now my brain is like, all right, how do we make that happen?
Right.
How are we going to make that happen? I'll tell you one, I'm going to start seeing Maseratis everywhere. And then also it's just, how am I going to actually make this happen? And now I have to take action and put in the work to make it happen so that I will be buying that Maserati one day.
Absolutely. And I think a couple of big things to include on top of what you're saying, and just to bounce ideas off your
Yes.
head, is the specificity behind it as well. And one of the reasons why I say this, and you have to listen, and I'll send you his profile as well. But one of the guys I have on podcast, he's not like a super popular guy. He will be one day because he is absolutely fantastic. But he's a big time real estate agent in New York. His name is Jermaine Miller. And he also speaks to like different like car dealerships and this group, that group. And he's like Les Brown Jr. In fact, Les Brown is his mentor. So
Oh,
so
wow.
he is like he is legit. But one of the things that he talks about, he was at this event and he was asking people, he said, I think it was that this one car company was giving their employees bonuses for Christmas or something. And one of these girls or women were saying that I'm going to use this bonus to get a car, a Mercedes she was going to get. So he started asking her, oh, you want a Mercedes? What kind of Mercedes do you want? So I don't really know. A Mercedes. But he was like, what kind do you want? Now she was someone, now, although she had the bonus, she could never get the car. She still couldn't afford it. But what he found and what she found when she actually did what he told her was, once she actually picked out the individual Mercedes that she wanted, the color, did she want 2-door or 4-door? Did she want a sedan? Did she want a SUV? Did she want a truck? What color did she want? What type of interior did she want? Because it was only once she started spending time with what she wanted that she actually got what she was looking for. And another good example is if someone goes to look for your podcast, but they just type in the search bar podcast, there's going to be 100,000 podcasts that comes up. All right, yours is a nonfiction type of podcast. They type in nonfiction. All right, now that gets a little closer. They type in self-growth. Now that gets a little closer. Until they go exactly type in your specific podcast into the search bar, there's going to be endless results there until they get specific with what they want. So I feel like a big part of it is you have to know exactly what it is what you want, because a vague description will only breed a vague result. And the second thing that I really wanted to talk on was the power of really seeing yourself as already having a thing. Because I'm a big believer that emotion and feeling is what drives a lot of what we do. Like, I want to go eat a piece of cake because I think it tastes really good. And since it tastes really good, it makes me feel really good. And when you already have done something and you tie that back to something emotional, like when I told you that last time when we last spoke, where I want to grab the medal, but I'm not gonna right now. It's a little too far. Gold medal that I got from St. John's, my college, for graduating with top of your class, whatever the case may be. But I created that emotional attachment when I watched the video 2 years prior of the medal being placed over the students' necks. I closed my eyes and I saw myself as that student, and I felt exactly what that feeling would feel like. And I said, this will be me, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I went around telling people that it would be me. I had because it was done. Now it's just a matter of time before it happened. And it's just it's so powerful when you tie it back to some type of connection that's so important to you, that you're just willing to go to any. And like you said, because your mind, your ego doesn't want to be wrong. It's always trying to protect you. That goes back to ancient times, to when we were still hunters and gatherers and we were trying to run away from lions and natural disasters. Our brain was telling us to go get safety. Now it's just transformed into other ways, such as not wanting us to be wrong, because we don't have to face those same dangers, most of us, anymore. Right. So I think that's such an important part that I think you hit on so perfectly.
Yes. And I want to add to, I love how you said the emotional connection, because what I found is most of the time we're not really chasing the thing itself. We have goals and we have wants and desires and we want to achieve a certain thing, but it's not the thing. It's really the emotion that comes with the thing. It's like we want a healthy body. We want to be fit and lean, but it's not really just the being fit and lean. It's the confidence that comes with it. That's what we really want from it. We want a certain amount of money. We want to make $1 million. It's not the $1 million. We want the financial freedom that comes with it. We want the feeling of we can help so many people now. We can serve so many people now. It's like we're chasing the feeling that comes from the thing. And once you identify that too, that's why it's so vital to just take some time with yourself, put in the work now to really figure out, your values and your passion and your purpose and your outcome. I'm not going to say goals, because I feel like goals are more, I personally feel like goals are more like short-term things, but your outcome, your ultimate outcome that you're chasing, and get so clear on that. And once you do, then you can just wake up every day knowing what you're going for. Because if you're just moving through life, you don't really know what it is. You're not clear on what it is that you're really here for. You don't really know what your values are. Yeah, you're just going to kind of coast through life. And then you're going to hit that point and say, is this all there is?
Right.
Is this all there is? And self-development and self-growth it's so vital, and it's for everyone too. I think that so many people think it's not for them. It's for rich people that have businesses that can afford to go to seminars and stuff like that, but it's so not. It's for anyone, and it's all based in just mindset, and it's just learning a new thought pattern, a new way of thinking that just opens you up to all the possibilities that are within you that you can do in this world. And it's just about looking within yourself and, again, getting just clear on where you are right now, and then where you're going to be, at.
Right. And I think a big point, as well as staying on that same topic, is that a lot of times people don't even know what they want in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are just running away from the person they used to be instead of running towards the person they want to become. So it's hard to ever get to a certain destination if all you're trying to do is run away. That's like running laps on a track, thinking that you're actually running around the block, but you're just running on the same track. The destination is not going to change. You're just going to keep running circles on the 400-meter track. It's not easy to do for a lot of people, because a lot of people are thinking a couple of things. Number one, the way I am is the way I always have to be. And number two, my circumstances create my reality. When in all actuality, I mean, you and I know this because we're taking a course on this right now, but the map is not the territory, right?
Yep.
The map, and I know this firsthand, being in the military, is we do land navigation. So we're given a map, and we're given the grid coordinate for exactly where we are right now. And then we're given a grid coordinate for the destination that we have to go to, but we're not told how to get there. Now, the map is how we're taught it, is simply like a geographical representation of the ground beneath you. But what the map misses is that since the map was created and since I've been given the map, there might be 50 years in between there. So now there's trails that have been put on the ground but aren't identified on the map. There might be hills that are no longer hills. There might be new streams. There might be new valleys. There might be X, Y, and Z. But if I'm just looking at the map, that's not going to be represented on there. So when I try to get to the territory, it's not going to be a realistic journey. So I feel like that's our perspective of what's going on in our life can be so deceiving a lot of the times. And then just some people are just so stuck in the past that they'll just keep trying to run away from it and not know where they're going. And then it's just a repetitive cycle of, this is who I am. This is who I'll always be. And it's sad and it hurts.
Yeah, I thought of a quote too. I love when you're in this space, you just always have a quote, You're like,
Oh, yeah.
I have a great quote, right? And it's, the past does not equal the future unless you live there. And you actually nailed it around the head. It's like, it's the same pattern. And what the most important thing, what happens to people, and this is what sucks actually for a lot of people who first get into personal development. It's all about breaking the pattern. And a lot of times it takes something extremely bad for someone to experience to realize, oh shit, I need to change my life now. I'm over this. Enough is enough. I'm making a change right now. A lot of times it takes something so bad. But what's so important about, people like us who are in this space is we're on a mission to really show people that it doesn't take something awful happening. You can start right now. Why not just say, I'm ready now to go ahead and change my life, and I'm ready now to create a higher standard for myself. I'm ready now to start that extraordinary life. And it's like, it doesn't take something terrible to break the pattern. You can break the pattern right now, but that's what you need to do. Break the pattern. And you have to do whatever it takes to break that pattern and decide. The most important thing is deciding, because what you actually said too, of most people just, they don't think that they can do it and they're stuck in their circumstances, is the most important thing is you realize that you have a choice. That's step number one, realizing that you have a choice. And then once you realize that, you're like, oh my God, I can change however I want. I can stay where I'm at or I can change where I'm at. And realizing that you have that choice, realizing that you can decide and you get to do that. You just have to decide to do it. And then you'll start. And then once you start to visualize, because like you said, a lot of people don't know. They don't have that outcome. They don't know what their values are. They just don't know. I think that we think we don't know, but it's because we haven't taken real time with ourselves to just get introspective and start to really identify that. We know, we just haven't taken time to really figure it out. And once you do that and you start to ask yourself those questions, you just ask yourself the question of, what does your best self look like? What does that look like for you? What does that mean for you? What are you doing? As if you closed your eyes right now and you pictured you as your absolute best self, what are you doing for a job? Where are you living? What are you wearing? How are you moving? How are you moving throughout life? How are you walking? Are you walking tall? Are your shoulders back? And what are you saying to yourself? What are the things that you say to yourself? What do other people say about you? And you just start to think about that. And then all the other questions will kind of fill themselves in. But what does that best self look like? And then you determine, what does it take? What does it take to be that best self? What does that best self do? Do they, exercise every day? Do they read every day? Do they, attend seminars? Like, what is it that they do that makes them their best self? Now that best you that you visualize and you determine exactly what they look like, feel like, talk like, all that good stuff, what they do to be that person. Now you just start to be that person today. The only way to become the only way to become your best self is to be that person right now. And then that person will show up.
That's absolutely right. I talked about that on one of the Instagram lives that I did, and I put it on my story. Yes. I'm not on my story, excuse me, my page. And that was the fact that, did I tell you last time we spoke about the 3 different stories I think we have?
The 3 different stories?
Yeah, the 3 parts of our story. I guess I didn't tell you, did I? But I'll tell you on here. So and I held a workshop on this in the Society of Growth and Success. And I'm a proponent, I'm an advocate, and I just came up with it one day. Don't ask me how, it was a godly intervention, and I think it was just a reflection on my own personal experience and my own personal life, but I think it translates to how all of us live. And maybe not all of us, most of us. But I think that number one, we live in a world where we're constantly told to listen to everybody else's story. And that's a very good thing to do, because a lot of people, especially those that are marginalized in our society, they have a story as to why they are in the place they are. And that can help us develop empathy, compassion, and help these people that especially need the help the most. And now we should listen to everybody's story. But when was the last time that we listened to our own story and the story that we're telling ourselves about who we are? So in that story, I think it's broken up into 3 parts. Number 1, there's a story that we tell the outside world about who we are. For example, what we see on social media, what we see on, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. A lot of the times, most people depict what in persuasion, the field of persuasion, I learned this freshman year, I'll never forget it. It's called the hyper reel. That's when you think of Disneyland and you see nothing but perfection, families having fun, the best of time. They don't even show you the long lines, do they, on the ads?
They don't show you the long lines.
They show you that it's the best thing in the world. And that's often what's reflected on most people's social media. It's the times with the family, it's the smiles, it's the achievements, it's the celebrations. But very rarely have I ever seen someone put their failures, their mishaps, their bumps in the road, their setbacks, That's not on there. Then there's the middle part of our story. There's what's right in the middle. And that part of the story is the story that we're telling ourselves about who we are, or our internal dialogues that we only have with nobody else but ourselves. This is who we think we are right now. But we don't tell other people on the outside world about that because we're afraid we're going to be judged. We're afraid that, X, Y, and Z, this person's not going to like me, yada, yada, yada. You get what I'm getting at there. And then there's the last part of the story. And that story is the story that we want to tell ourselves about who we are, or the person that we want to become. Now, you would think that, number one, I'm sure a lot of people haven't thought this I'm going to call it like a theory. But what I've come to notice in my life at some points in the past is that I was living in direct contradiction. All parts of my story were in straight contradiction. I wasn't putting out to the public, number one, if I, exactly like you said, if I have a picture of who I want to become in the future, I need to start acting that way now in everything that I do. So if I go online on social media and I only show the best parts of my life, and I'm kind of telling a lie to the world, I'm telling myself that I'm not actually being true with the outside world. And then in turn, that's going to affect my self-image. And I'm going to be thinking, man, I'm not really worthy enough. I'm not really good enough. And then I'll never go out and be the person that I eventually want to be. It's so true what you're saying about being that person now. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to think or actually comprehend and implement. And one of the reasons why is because I think that social media plays a big part in that, because they see people that actually have it already. You know what I mean? Like they actually have the money, they actually have the car. So what do you think in terms of like social media? How do you think that affects a lot of people and I would say their journey, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. One, why didn't you tell me these three parts of the story? I thought that was real. That was so profound. I was sitting here just really taking that in. I love that so much. So I'm a little upset you didn't tell me about that before. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when it comes to social media, you hit the nail on the head of just, we live in such a highlight reel world where everyone's just posting their highlights. No one really wants to talk about the real struggles. However, I think that the world is starting to change a little bit. Social media is starting to change where people want to see that. They want to see the vulnerability. They want the honest truth. They want the real journey, because we all know that we live in a highlight reel now. And it's still hard, I think, because so many people kind of still have that mindset of just post their wins, post their wins, post their wins. But let's just be a little bit more honest about what it takes to get to those wins. The fails that happen before that win. And it's definitely hard when you live in a world of smoke and mirrors and you go online and you open up social media and it just seems like everyone's winning except for you. And it can be tough. I'm not going to lie and say like, it's not, just change your mind. No, I'm not going to say that. It's tough to open your phone and see that. But what is so important to remember is, one, it's a highlight reel. And two, you don't know what that person really went through to get to that level that they are. And they put in the work to get to that level that they are. Nothing comes for free. Nothing comes easy unless, you're an anomaly and you just woke up with 1 million followers and $1 million, But I don't think that happens to most of us. And I don't think that happens to most people that get to that kind of level. They put in the work. Half of these overnight successes when it comes to celebrities and music artists and stuff, they were not overnight successes. Example, Lizzo. Lizzo was not an overnight phenomenon. Her song was featured in a Netflix film that is epically amazing. And yes, that song blew up because of that movie. And then everyone knew who Lizzo was. And everyone's like, where'd this girl come from? Fun fact, I saw Lizzo before she was Lizzo in concert. Me and Zach, we were at this music festival and we're walking through and we're like, who is this powerhouse voice? And we listened to a couple songs, and it was this girl named Lizzo we never heard of. We're like, oh, that girl, something. Wow, she's cool, so good. And we went about our merry way. And then like years later, that now look at where she is. It's like, you don't know that like there was not a big crowd for her when we went and saw her. There was not like a million people out of nowhere. No, she put in the work for years, like a lot of celebrities do before it actually happened. And that's just so important to remember where anyone is, their businesses. Do you know how many businesses fail? And you know how many like rounds of businesses people go through before they really find one that they make work, and that's their actual, now the one that they've grown to some massive epic level. They probably had 3 businesses that they started that crashed and burned before, but they learned from it, and then they kept going, and then they kept growing. What happens is most people, they start, they fail, and then they're like, oh well, like throw in the towel and just go back to the regular. Like, I'm clearly not meant for this. The reason why someone is at that level when you go on social media is because they probably failed, but then they kept going. They learned from it and they kept going. And it's just so important to remember these things. And even though they're posting their wins, I think, the real change makers, the real impactful ones who are out there, they realize the whole sharing your story, being vulnerable, and just being authentic on their page. We still have those people who were posting their highlight reel. Love to them, but we should recognize that they had to grow through what they went through to get to where they are. And also, personally, if you don't kind of hop on board with this whole movement of let's actually be real and talk real shit and talk about how it's not all rainbows and butterflies, if you kind of don't, people are going to spot that from a mile away. Because people already do. They spot that from a mile away. And then, people are like, oh, you're cool and everything. But you lose the impactfulness of what you're doing when you're not just honest about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. 100% makes sense. And now, as you were talking, I was thinking about, and I think a lot of this might have to do with social media as well, but maybe not. But I think a lot of us like to spend or think, or we're taught from a young age that we necessarily have to have a lot of friends, and we have to have a big social circle and so forth. And one of the things that I found in college was a lot of the people I was surrounded by had, I'm not going to say such, but they had a lot of different interests than I did. They had a lot of things that they did that contradicted where I wanted to go. And what I found myself alone a lot of the time. But it was funny because I think the world tells us that to be alone isn't really a good thing. But I learned more about myself being alone than I ever did being surrounded by 10 friends or 5 friends. And a lot of us are afraid of spending time alone because, number one, that might make us think people don't want to spend time with us, that we're not worthy to have friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever the case may be. But to me, that's when I actually make some real progress, is when I turn down the lights or I lay in bed, I put on my reflection music and I close my eyes for 10 minutes, nobody else in there but me. And I just let my mind run and do whatever it does. Now, my question to you is, what's your take and what value do you place on alone time and spending time in solitude? Because I think that talks to something that's often forgotten when it comes to personal development, is like the spiritual side. And I'm not saying religious, I'm talking spiritual. That might mean religion for some people, but for everybody, there's something that transcends you, or that you get in touch with to get that purpose, to get that passion. So what does alone time look for you? What do you think about alone time?
Yes, I think it's so important because if you don't want to hang out with yourself, like no, other people probably won't want to. You have to really know how to just take that time, because you're right. That's the moment where you start to find clarity within yourself. That's the time when you start to discover things about yourself, because you get to actually be alone. You don't have the opinions of other people's just flooding you in that moment, and you really get to find what it is you're looking for. And a lot of it has to do with just spending time alone, and you have to get comfortable with that. And it's like it really could just be doing anything. It can be you just taking a long shower. That's great alone time right there. And just thinking about things and not letting all the outside distractions influence you and your thoughts. And because we're just, our thoughts are so powerful. And when we're taking in all these other thoughts that aren't even our own and making them our own, that's when it starts to get confusing. For the longest time, I didn't know what I really, really wanted to do. So I would just do everything because someone would say, oh my God, you're so good at this. Let me do this. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm interested in this. And then someone would say, well, you actually do this a lot. And it's just taking in all the other differing opinions, which we appreciate the people. They want what's best for us. They're trying to point out things that we, want. But at the end of the day, we have to figure out what it is that we want. And you really get that by being alone. So for me, I like to meditate. Similar to you, I like to meditate. I like to take long showers. That's why I said the shower things. I love taking a long shower just by myself, thoughts and steam. It's great. And I love to read. I love to just listen to music and have a little impromptu dance party. I like to jump on my trampoline, and I like to do a lot. I like to do a lot of things alone. Don't get me wrong. I love people too. But for me to show up at a certain level, at a certain energy level for other people, for me to have this kind of energy, for me to show up, I have to also have that alone time. I have to have that time to fill up my cup, to recharge, to reflect, to take in the events of the day, if you will, and to journal. I journal a lot. I journal a lot. And so those are really, really, really valuable times for people. And I think so many of us are scared to be alone with our thoughts. But if we are, that's really when we can just start to find that clarity that we all are just so looking for in our lives. Just take a little time to be still with just you and not allow anything else to influence your thoughts and just work through your own thoughts.
Right. And I think in those alone times, you get to identify your principles, your values, things that are
Yeah.
most important to you.
Yeah.
And one thing that stuck with me after last time we talked was that you have these, I think it was four values or principles that you live by. And you said, if something that I'm doing or going to do doesn't align with these four things, such as connection, or
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what else you said. You're going to remind us.
Oh yeah.
But explain, because how I took it was if what I'm doing doesn't align with these four things, that I know I'm doing the wrong thing. So explain to everyone that's listening, like what the hell I'm even talking about and how you use it.
People are like, what? For what? Yeah. So,
It was cool.
right. It's once you take that time to be alone with yourself and really define your values, I think it's important to have your top values and really think about it. Take all the areas of your life, your family, your health, your job, your finances, all the different areas of your life, and then list the top values that you have within those. And then take that list and see what similarities you got. And now take those values and rank them in a hierarchy. So if you had to choose between love and, happiness, whatever, it's like, which one comes first? And you rank these in a hierarchy, and then you really determine what your top values are. So for me, once I really did a lot of internal work with myself and thought about what's most important to me, how do I want to show up every day, my top four values are service, success, connection, and creativity, in that order. Okay, in that order. And so for me to do something, for me to really do pretty much anything and to put energy towards something, it has to meet three, if not all four of those things. And if it's not 100% a hell yes, then it's most likely a no for me, because I want to have this kind of energy. Like, I want to get on this podcast and be excited and have energy and, just absolutely provide value at the highest level that I can. And for me to do that, that means that I'm not going to spend my day doing a whole bunch of little things that just keep me busy, but don't actually get me anywhere and expound on my energy in all these different places. No, I don't have time for that, because I know what's important to me. Doing something like this, it meets all of my needs, and I know that it's a hell yes. And I'm going to put all my energy into it. I'm going to give 110,000%, So I say all this to say, once you really define what your top values are, it makes it so easy to wake up and say, all right, all of these opportunities, all these things that I could do, what is actually aligned with my values and my purpose and my outcome? And then you can say no to the things that just don't serve that. And you can put forth you can operate at the level that you want to, doing those things that align with it. And it makes it just so much easier to move through life once you know what aligns with your values.
Man, that is beautiful. I absolutely love that. And believe it or not, since we last spoke, I actually did the same thing myself. So I have to thank you, because that was something that stuck with me. And that's something that I chose to take time out of my day to do as well. And it is a great feeling, let me tell you. Now, this is what the book looks like, 5 a.m. Club.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I know
but
what
I'm
to look
telling
for.
you, if you, this is a must, you will fall in love with this book. I
Oh, I'm
promise.
so
I
excited.
will give you the money if you do not like this book. Okay. Okay, but I want to just read you a quote, and this just going to transition to the next question that I want to ask you and discussion we'll have. And so there is a man that's talking, and the man that I'm going to say is saying the quote. He is they call him right now, he's the homeless man, but he turns out to be this super successful, and he mentors these two people, and he tells them, you two each have a hero inside of you. You knew this as a child before adults told you to limit your power, shackle your genius, and betray the truths of your heart. Adults are deteriorated children. When you were much younger, you understood how to live. Staring at stars filled you with delight. Running in a park made you feel alive, and chasing butterflies flooded you with joy. Oh, how I adore butterflies. Then, as you grow up, you forget how to be human. You forgot how to be bold and enthusiastic and loving and wildly alive. Your precious reservoirs of hope faded. Being ordinary became acceptable.
Mm,
So, so, and by the way, this is like one of a billion quotes that I have highlighted here. It's ridiculous. But to you, I'm curious as to how does that speak to you? Because I could talk about that for a long time, but how
right.
does that passage, what does that say to you about about us in general and the positions that we end up in, and the influence that common culture has on us as we grow up?
Yes. I think what's so important, I love that, by the way. I love that passage. Thank you for sharing that with me. And it's so true of just, we forget how to be like how we were when we were kids. We forget because when we're kids, we want to just explore everything. We're so curious. We're always learning. Nothing stops us. We don't have any kind of limitations. This is why we have all these bumps and bruises from when we were kids, because we were fearless back then. It's not until we get older that we start to be told, like, we start to get knocked down by the world, and then lenses and filters get put on our worldly view that makes us more cautious about things. But when you're a kid, you don't have all of those, because you don't have any of those limitations. And if you fail as a kid too, well, it doesn't matter. You just keep on going. You literally keep on going. And we had this idea around kids too. Like, there's a story that I'm pretty sure it's a Tony Robbins thing. I'm sorry, I do a lot of Tony Robbins stuff, guys. So, and he talks about when you have a baby, when at what point, when your baby's trying to learn how to walk, at what point, how many times does he have to fall before you're like, all right, this walking thing just isn't for you. Let's go ahead and just throw in the towel. You're just gonna crawl forever. Like, at what point when you're looking at your baby do you tell him to stop? Never. You don't tell them to stop. You're just like, you keep going, you keep going, you keep trying, you keep doing it, you keep striving until it happens. You never tell a baby to stop. So why do we tell ourselves to stop? Why do we tell ourselves to throw in the towel and just give up on it? Oh, we tried so many times, so like, it is what it is. And why do we do that? I don't have that answer, to be honest with you. But like, why do we do that? We need to recognize that we do it, and we need to stop doing that. And then it goes back to kids were so curious about everything. And I had kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of like a cocky thought, but I thought it like yesterday, and it was like, I'm so smart because like I'm always learning, like I'm so smart because like I keep learning things. And but it's true anyway. But it's true though, because when you're always learning and you're always curious, that's where so much growth happens. That's where so much, new wonder and joy comes from. And you're always just thinking about like, why is something this one way? Why do we keep ourselves in just one direction for so long? Kids don't, we go walking through a forest, and there's a trail, for a reason, because somebody somewhere at some point made this trail and said like, this is the way, and this is the way to get from point A to point B. But then when you go off the beaten path, all of a sudden you discover a whole new trail that nobody else did before. And it was just because for a split second you thought, you know what, why is this one way? Why is this one way? Why don't we try why don't we try exploring something new? But we do that in such calculated ways. But the way an extraordinary life happens, because I love how you said we get complacent with being just ordinary. When extraordinary life happens is when we start to do that more often and start
Right.
doing. I'm not saying go like jump off a bridge and something, be like, well, nobody else is, like whatever. I'm not saying all that. But I'm saying when you start to just think differently and start thinking about how you can do things a different way, how just because one person did it this way, why don't you do it a different way? Just because one person hasn't achieved it, why couldn't you achieve it? There's this thing called the Bannister effect. I've learned this.
Roger Bannister effect.
Yes, I've read it so many times now that I can speak on it. It's one of those things that I would hear it and be like, oh yes, that's a good story. But now I've heard it so many times, so I can tell it now. But the 4-minute mile had never been done before, had never been achieved before. I love how you're like getting so excited about this. You're like, oh,
I love
yes,
it.
tell the
This
story.
is one of my favorites.
I love it. So you can fill in the gaps if I get any part of it wrong. So the point is, at the time, a 4-minute mile had just never been done before. Never been done. Except for this guy, Bannister, came along, and he was like, you know what? I can do it. And he kept trying and trying and visualizing himself as doing it. That was part of it. He visualized himself as completing it. And what happened? This man ran a 4-minute mile when it had never been done before. Never been done before. But then the craziest part about it was what happened. I don't even remember how many days later it was, but it was like less than a month later. Someone else broke the record. Someone else ran it faster than he did. And then another person ran it. And then another person ran it. And then another person ran it. And soon it was like this thing that everyone thought could never be done. Could never be done. This one person said, you know what? I can totally do it. And now everyone learned that the impossible is possible. And then everyone started freaking doing it, And it's just, why can't you be that person? You be that person for your life. You can be that person for your own life. You have it in you. It's just about finding what it is and just doing it and believing that you can do it and putting it in your mind and not letting yourself just be complacent with being ordinary. Know that you can be extraordinary. Always be learning, always be striving, never give up. Be like a child. Have that just zest for life that kids just seem to have. Just have that now. You can have that now. There's no reason why you can't. You can have that right now. And then the freaking anything is possible. The unachievable, the unimaginable is the unimaginable. I'm getting hype. Okay. The unimaginable can just become within grasp. It's right there. It's right there. And it's incredible. It's incredible. The power of thought, man. The power of freaking thought.
Oh, I know. Trust me. And one of the good one, actually, I like going back to my damn near condemnation of the movie The Secret. I really like the book. I really do, because I think it makes things very simple. But one of the best things is it's so simple. Just thoughts become things. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really true. And it really is true. So my next question, and I never asked this one before, but I think it's very unique. If you had the power, unlimited time, resources, and energy, and you were the the education secretary of the United States, and you had the ability to go into each individual school throughout the country or the world, and starting from around the 6th grade or so, you had the ability, and you were going to make a policy that schools had to teach this one thing about personal growth to students starting in the 6th grade and going on for the rest of their education. What would that one thing be?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Oh man. Okay. So kids starting out in 6th grade, and there's one thing to start thinking about. I think I think I would start, if you had started in 6th grade, so I'm pondering. Anyway,
Yeah, I know it's not an easy question, but I had to ask it because I think
I
that
love it.
it's important, because I think the reason why I asked is that I think the earlier we start, the more, and the reason why I say 6th grade is because there's a lot of changes going on in a lot of kids during that time, a lot of hormonal changes, a lot of emotional changes, a lot of family changes, just changes upon changes upon changes. And people are very vulnerable during those changes. And a lot of the times they're steered in the wrong direction instead of being steered in the right direction. So why not create some type of curriculum that can start to guide kids in a better type of direction? Because education, they teach us how to be machines. That doesn't teach us how to become human beings who live a fulfilled life. You know, there's a reason why 70% of the workforce is miserable going to work each day. It's because we're learned how to do Excel and not learned how to reflect on who we are. So that's why I asked that question. I know I might have put you on a little bit of a hot seat, and to you guys listening, this is, I'm assuming that you all understand that this is off the cuff, and that's why I like, because these type of conversations are just natural, and I think that if they're pre-planned, it comes like kind of monotonous, and you're like, how do you keep it exciting if you never just bring up some surprises? Ain't that right?
Yes, exactly. I'm glad you did it. It made me really think, like really hard. Like it made me, I felt like that, that meme where it's like the lady and it's like all the math around her. I feel like my brain was just computing everything in like 10 seconds. Like, all right, what out of all of the knowledge that you have gained, Christina, where would you start? And so I think, especially starting at that young of an age, it would be the power of thought. Yes, the power of thought, but the language specifically that you use to speak to yourself.
Wow,
I think that's where I would start.
Good, yeah.
There's oh my gosh, there's so much that you can do building success, and obviously like the law of attraction and everything like that. But I think where I would start, especially like you said, it would, like, when you're in that age range, you start to go through a lot of different things and lots of different thought patterns. I would start with how you speak to yourself is so important, and like affirmations, incantations, those kinds of things, because they're so vital, because teaching the way that you speak to yourself is the person that you're going to become. And if you think to yourself, like, I'm worthless, and you might think that just because it's 6th grade. I'm trying to think, like what was I doing in 6th grade? Oh God. Like, like, I don't even know. But when you're doing stuff in 6th grade and a boy or girl, they say like, I don't like you because I think you're ugly. And now you internalize that and you think, I'm worthless, right, I'm ugly, nobody likes me, blase, blase. And that internalizes, that gets ingrained into your brain. That gets like, that becomes you, that becomes a part of you if you focus all of your thought on that. So, focusing your thoughts and how you speak to yourself, because people are going to say a lot of crap about you all of your life. It doesn't stop at childhood by any means. But if you learn from a young age that how you speak to yourself is the most important, and then you say, even though, that boy, that girl, they suck, whatever, it's okay, because I know that I'm beautiful, I'm a badass, I'm going to be successful, I'm a rock star, I'm this, I'm that. And you say all these positive things about yourself. that can really change the trajectory of your life. And if we learn that at such a young age, the power of that, and we started teaching how to say those things to yourself and putting the emotion behind it and really feeling it and making it part of your identity, holy crap, that would be insane for some kids. That would be life changing. So that's what I would start.
You said that very well, right? That was very
Oh,
good. That was
thank you.
very good.
Oh gosh.
And I think I absolutely have to agree, because I was in a position where I was, one of those kids that was on the receiving end of being bullied, and my self-worth as a result was that of, as I told you last time, remember, I came to a point where my parents had to tell me that I was part Irish so that I could feel accepted. Meanwhile, I wasn't Irish whatsoever, because of I was accepting what I was being told, that I'm all of these bad things, and I started to believe it. But what if I had somebody or some type of education on the fact that that wasn't really me, right? Once again, like the map wasn't the territory type of thing. The perception isn't the reality.
Yes.
And man, I think that's so beautiful that you pointed that out. And I think that is probably the best place to start. And I didn't even think that beforehand, but man, that was spot on. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about, because I think that when people see women or men or I should say just women in your case, I was going to say men too, but that wouldn't sound right. Like a woman in your case that is doing such good things and is really, really striving to become a better person every day, that you don't have any flaws. You don't have any room to grow. But what is one area in your life that you identify that you do need to grow and improve upon?
Ooh, that's a good one. All right. An area where I need to improve upon. I will say, so right now, it's funny because how I said it was a friend, it is a friend, but I'm also in the same boat as said friend, where my money mindset is definitely changing, my financial, because another limiting belief that I had for a very long time was that, as smart as I am, I'm not business smart. I'm not financially literate, and I'm not super good with my money or anything like that, even though I'm totally fine and I'm in a much better spot. And I'm very, 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 very grateful for the spot that I am in compared to other people. But my mindset around it is like, oh, you're not smart enough, especially now that I'm moving into a new phase of my life where it is a much more entrepreneurial side of things. And I'm learning a whole bunch of things that I didn't know before. And I was actually talking to someone, and I was talking about kind of starting my own business and certain things and whatever. And they said like, well, you don't know how to start a business. Like you don't know how to do that. And I said to them, well, that's true, but I'm not going to know until I do it. Like I've never started a business before, so to speak. And so, yeah, I don't know what to do until it happens. So I had that thought around it. But that is one area of Christina's life that Christina is shifting her mindset around. And I told my friend this too. She was saying, I want to change my mindset. I want to change my mindset. I want to change my mindset. And I said, can I give you one piece of feedback? She said, yes. And I said, stop saying that you're going to change your mindset and just do it. Like, let's start right now and let's change our mindset right now. Let's stop talking about it, how we need to do it. We know that. We know. So let's just change our mindset and let's shift our focus and not think about how we're quote unquote bad at it and whatever. And that was what I'm doing now. Like, I don't sit around anymore thinking like, oh man, like I don't know this stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's still a process. I'm not perfect. This is one area that I am focused on really, really getting a hold of. And when people, for the longest time, if you start spitting out numbers at me, my brain would just shut down. I'd be like, oh, not Christina. Like, I don't know. Like I can't follow along with all this. But no, just because I don't know it in this exact moment doesn't mean I can't figure it out. Maybe I just need a little bit of time. Maybe I just need for you to slow it down for me a little bit. Maybe I don't learn it auditorily, because how we all learn differently. I'm a very auditorial. Oh wow, like I'm gonna sound very silly. I'm not knowing how to say this word in this moment, but I learned through hearing. I learned through listening. So that's why I'm big on audiobooks. I'm big on listening. That's how I digest things. But maybe when it comes to finances, maybe I'm more of a visual learner. I don't know. Like, so I'm figuring out what way best works for me to digest these new concepts that I'm less experienced in, if you will. But it doesn't mean that I don't know it or I'm not smart enough to know it. It just means that I'm learning it. So
Right.
that's one area for me.
Right. No, that's great. And that kind of leads, not leads, but it's kind of correlated to the next one, because I want to know, where is Christina going to be in 10 years from now?
Oh, yay. I love these kinds of questions. Okay. How old am I? I'm 26 and then I'll be 36. Okay.
Well, let's make it even 40. So
Okay.
so 14 years from now, where will Christina be?
Christina is going to be, I'm closing my eyes for a reason as I answer this. Christina at 40 is going to have a self-development empire. By 40, I'm going to be able to impact so many people's lives. I'm going to be that person that's a thought leader in this space that people just look to when they know that they are ready to make that change in their life. Like, I'm someone that you come to say, I want that motivation. Like, I'm going to be a motivational speaker. I'm going to say traveling around the world, because hopefully in 14 years, I'll be able to travel, so be traveling around the world, motivational speaker, having all kinds of different ways for people to develop themselves. Cause I want to make sure I serve the needs of like everyone. I want to serve the people who are like me right now, who are making that change in their 20s. I want to help the people who are, younger. Cause a big thing for me is literacy. That's a huge thing for me, child literacy, because there's so many stats. I'm not even going to go into it, but there's so many stats about literacy rates in children today and everything. And so like, that's something big that I want to work on. But I also want to serve, the people who are struggling in their business and entrepreneurs and people who have reached a certain pinnacle in their life but are plateauing and don't know what's next. Like, I want to serve so many people. And by 40, oh yeah, like I'm going to have a whole freaking empire way of doing things, that I'm going to have so many different programs and ways for people to really take the next step in their life, no matter what point that step is. And I'll be living in California, because I've always wanted to just live in California. And I'll have that Maserati for sure. That Maserati will be there. And I'll have a beautiful family as well. I want 2 kids. I'll probably get twins, because my boyfriend, his dad is a twin, and you know how it skips generations. So like, I've thought it too much now. The power of thought, the law of attraction.
That's it.
So I've thought it way too much.
Triplets.
I know. I'm like, I'm probably going to have twins. So I'll have a beautiful family, and I'll be able to take care of, a lot of people who I really want to make sure are taken care of as well. So that's.
And then the very last thing is, what's the contribution that you hope to make, and what's the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Oh, wow. The contribution I hope to make. I want to have, one, the nonprofit around children and child literacy. I want to make sure that everyone has the resources that they need to learn the basic skill of reading and be at a proficient level of reading. And I want to be able to just help so many children. Children's a big thing for me. So I want to make sure that they are set for success. And the legacy that I want to leave behind is, I just want to be that person who is really respected as a thought leader in the self-growth space, and that really paved the way for so many other women, who look like me, so many other women of color, to be able to step into this space. Because I think while the world is changing and there's so much progress that has happened, there's still a long way to go. It's like, for me, here, I'll tell you a quick example. When you think of like a yoga teacher and you think of like a thin white woman, which is totally fine. It's just what it's been for so long. And then it's a thing if it's like a Black yoga teacher, and you think like that's what defines them, is like the fact that they're Black, and that's beautiful and that's cool because it's different. But I want someone to say like, this is a yoga teacher, and it doesn't even matter. I want to get to a world that's like that. that it doesn't even matter because it's just so normal to have diversified industries across the board. And I think the personal development space is so important. And the reason why there isn't so much diversity yet is because so many people still believe that personal development, self-growth is not for them. They're stuck in their circumstances. They're stuck in their old thought patterns that really don't serve them anymore. And I want to break that mold for people to realize that, yes, this space is for you. And if you get into the space, like, your whole world will fucking change. It will change. And so I really want to be, that's the legacy that I want to leave, is just paving the way for so many other people to come after me. Like, I want to be the banister, like, I want to have my own banister effect. And I really want to leave that legacy of paving the way for so many other people to step up into this space, into this world, and really into whatever the hell they want to do. But I'm that person that really help people realize that, yes, no matter what your background, no matter what your circumstances, you can achieve absolutely freaking anything.
Have you, and by the way, I'm going to hold you to that 14-year goal of your self-development
Yes.
empire. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll still be connected, and I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to hold you to that. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I know it'll happen because you got that energy. I see the passion. And by the way, Christina, this is going to be on YouTube as well. So
heck yeah.
People can see the passion that you speak with. And it's something that I've very rarely seen before, and it's admirable. Now, I was curious, have you ever heard the George Bernard Shaw quote on circumstances?
All
right,
Hit me with it.
People are always blaming what they are or where they are on their circumstances. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world go out and look for the circumstances they want, and if they cannot find them, they create them. And I think that you will be a trendsetter, and you will help other people see that they can in fact go out and create those favorable circumstances that they want. So I really thank you for joining us on this episode. This is good. This was powerful. This was energetic. This was all the above. So Christina Sloan, I thank you so much for being here and sharing your wealth of knowledge, experience, abundance, energy, and love with the world.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. This was epic. This was an amazing conversation. I'm so glad this is documented, for the world kind of thing. And we can go back and listen to it. I absolutely enjoyed my time so much here. And I think the same about you. I really do. After just talking to you when we first spoke, I said, oh wow, yeah, this is someone I want in my corner. This is someone who is doing 100%. Big things. This is someone who is on a path, propelling forward, just wanting to help other people. And I'm so here for it. And I admire what you do so much. I really do. I admire what you do so much. So I could not be more honored to be here.
And Christina, before I almost forgot. Now, where can people find your podcast? Where can people find your social media? All the above.
Oh yeah. All right. So starting with the podcast, Working Overtime, the podcast. That's where you can find me. We are on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, those things. And also my social media, I am on the gram. That is where I am most active. That's where you can find me. Hit your girl up in the DMs. So my personal page is CN Sloan _ CN as in Nicole, Sloan _ and my podcast page is Working OT Podcasts. And that's where I'm most active. That's where you can find me. I'm more active on my personal page. I'm a captions gal. I'll have like a nice little picture with a long caption. I'm that because I'm a writer, so that's where you can find me at. And I love connecting with people. I really do. So please, anyone who's listening, if you're like, man, I need a little bit of that girl in my life, like shoot me a DM and I'll probably voice memo you back because that's what we do. So Love it.
Well, you guys heard it here, Christina Sloan.